everyone, and welcome back to the Barely Bookish podcast. Today we're going to be finishing off Through the Looking Glass with Leah from YA Book Chat, so that's going to be a whole lot of fun. But before we get started with that, I just wanted to have a couple quick announcements. So first, on August 6th, the first Friday of August, we will have our next Patreon exclusive episode. That's going to be with Nova, and we are going to be discussing all of the Disney adaptations of Alice in Wonderland. So that includes the two Tim Burton films as well as the original Disney one that came out in like the 50s, I think. But we'll be discussing that. It'll be exclusively on Patreon. So if you want a little bit of fun, extra content for just $10 a month, you can help support the podcast and get exclusive episodes every single month, as well as my show notes. So lots of fun things over on Patreon, and I really hope you'll consider subscribing. Besides that, we will be doing more Twitch streams. I'm going to be moving soon, so once I'm done moving, I will be, setting a real firm schedule about Twitch, on Twitch, I guess. And once that happens, I will let you all know what it looks like so that you guys can tune into episodes and all that fun stuff. But I don't really know what that's going to look like yet, but I will let you know as soon as I do. But without further ado, let's get into this episode of the Barely Bookish podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Barely Bookish podcast. We are once again talking about Through the Looking Glass, and this is the second round of chapters, and it is very exciting and honestly my favorite of the two books. But we are once again joined by Leah from the YA Book Chat.
Hey, everybody. And this is also my favorite of the two books. I like this one much better.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is far, far superior in my humble opinion because I feel like it's more of a story than the first one was.
Yes, it's just more of a cohesive story that you can follow. And we've got Alice has a goal at the end. And yeah, the first one's just kind of rambling nonsense.
Yeah, the first one's definitely a whole lot of rambling nonsense. I couldn't even follow along. I was taking notes and I was like, no one's going to get this, but you know what? It'll be okay.
It's Alice in Wonderland, so it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, but we'll get right into it. So, chapter 6, Humpty Dumpty. So, as she gets closer to this egg, it gets more and more human, and now it's turned into Humpty Dumpty. And this is the first time that I've actually fully realized that Humpty Dumpty is actually an egg. Like I
What do
kind of
you mean?
forgot that he's like he's round and egg shaped. I forgot
Yes.
that.
He is. He is very much an egg, just a big, huge egg sitting on a wall for some reason.
I know. I have no idea why, but it's so funny to me because, that's just what we have. We just have an egg.
hmm Well, I mean, when I was growing up, I'd always be like, why is an egg sitting on a wall? That's stupid. So, I mean, you're just asking for trouble there.
I know. It's like your skull is literally the most fragile object in existence, Golden retrievers hold you very softly in their mouths for that specific reason, is because they are so fragile.
Yep. Oh, well, here he is sitting on the wall for Alice.
Yeah, doing what he wants, I guess. So Alice immediately offends Humpty Dumpty and says he looks like an egg, to which he says that she has no more sense than a baby.
Which is ironic because he is an egg, but he's offended when she says he looks like an egg.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I wonder if he just doesn't realize that he's an egg and he thinks he's just, his own species kind of thing.
Hmm. I've never really
Like, is it
thought
one of
about that
those?
before.
Yeah. I wonder if it's one of those phenomenons, like, how the scientists say that if you walked by a clone of yourself, you wouldn't recognize them as you? So,
Really?
wonder if it's something similar. Yeah, there's a whole study. I read it a long time ago, but yeah, if you walked by an identical clone, you'd be like, "Huh, they look kind of familiar." But because you always look at yourself backwards, you wouldn't recognize it as yourself.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Ah,
It's how why identical twins sometimes think they don't look similar at all.
well, that makes sense. Well, maybe he does then. Maybe this is what's happening to Humpty Dumpty. I don't know. But I will say, I am not surprised that Alice, 2 seconds into this chapter, has already insulted somebody. I mean, that's just her pattern, right?
Yeah, I am not surprised in the slightest. I'm like, yeah, that feels right. That goes with the flow. So, of course, Humpty Dumpty is sitting on a very narrow wall so the king can send all of his horses and all of his men. And then Humpty Dumpty and Alice continue to fight because that's how things go for some reason.
Yep.
And then Humpty Dumpty says that he got a present from the queen on his unbirthday and basically explains that that is any day that is not your actual birthday.
Yes.
Yeah,
Which
and
is fantastic.
I know. Like, do you get a present for every day that's not your birthday and then you don't get birthday presents?
I've never thought about that. I mean, I don't know. That's a good Rachel, you keep making me think of all these things. I'm like, gosh, I have never looked at it from that perspective before. I hadn't
That's
thought about that.
See,
I don't
that's the good
know.
part about having no nostalgic value to any of these books is that I always just kind of I treat them. You know how like people treat J.K. Rowling books where they expect her to answer all these questions about this universe she created and like how it
Yeah.
works outside of her story. I basically do that to every book I read, which is not the nicest way to read literature, but I do it anyways.
It works. It's what's worked for you. So it's fine.
I think it's fun, but other people are like, I literally can't answer that for you, and I'm like, I'm posing it to the universe.
There we go. Yeah, I cannot answer that for you. But I will say this, if people wanted to give me unbirthday presents 364 days a year, especially if many of them were in the form of books, I would not object
Mhm.
to that.
My PO box is. I'm just kidding.
Yes. Please
If
send
people start
them
doing
this
that, I
way.
will get a PO box. I am very ready to get on birthday presents.
Me too.
Yeah. So at this point, she can't tell if Humpty Dumpty's wearing a belt or if he's wearing I can't remember what this is called, but it's basically like a necktie situation. And he gets super offended because it's a necktie, but of course he's a round egg. So
She cannot tell. It's a cravat. Is that how you say it?
yeah, that feels
I
right, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't blame her. It is really hard to tell. I have a picture of Humpty Dumpty in my book, and
Oh
it
yeah.
is kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I'd be like, that's a nice thing you got right there. That thing. Wonderful. Okay, and then Humpty Dumpty also says that he makes words mean things that they didn't mean before. And normally we would call this uneducated, but for Humpty Dumpty's case, we say he invents words and he
Yes.
gives them meaning. So then Alice asks if he can explain the Jabberwocky poem. And so, they go through it. I still don't get it. But I did write the translation down in the first verse so we can all sit here and listen to it together.
Okay.
So, this is the way he translated it. Twas,
Yep.
it was 4 in the afternoon, and the lithe and slimy badgers did go round and round the make holes in the grass around the sundial. All flimsy and miserable were the thin, shabby birds, and from home? Question mark. Green pigs sneeze. What?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Humpty Dumpty did not translate that poem correctly.
No, no.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So I actually, use this poem in my drama class because
Mm-hmm.
we do a unit on well, Elizabethan theater, but then I also put in there with that like how to understand or figure out what something means when you don't know the words. So this poem is of course
Mm-hmm.
perfect for that. So I always try and,
Yeah.
get my students to interpret what they think it means. And they're all okay. So this is what kind of our interpretation has been so far of this first part is that 'twas gloomy and the slimy. Now toves usually goes like, could be like worms or toads, like they always say
Yeah.
toads, like frogs. Did and now gyre and gimble in the wave. They thought of like wave back and forth, like in the wind, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, all mimsy were the borogo, so like flimsy, and the mome rails out grave. They thought, maybe it was rats or something. I don't know. It's very hard to interpret these four lines.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it is. I was just like, sure, those are words, I guess. Sounds good. Yeah, so that happens. And then Humpty Dumpty starts repeating poetry to her for a reason.
Always,
I just,
always with the poetry.
I know. Like, how many teachers just kind of look at these poems and just read them aloud and just kind of go, okay, next? So that's what I
That
do.
is a good. Oh, I would too. And this one is about fish. It's about
Hmm.
fish.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't really sure the point of this one, but whatever.
Or the oyster one. I'm still not sure what the point of that one
Oh,
was.
I can't. I can't. No, the walrus and the carpenter and the poor little oysters who get eaten. Nope, nope.
I know. It was really sad.
It is really sad, especially when you see it put before you on screen. Like the um because there isn't I have seen an animated version of that poem and I
Hmm.
don't remember gosh, I don't even remember where I saw it. But at any rate, the oysters, they make them look like little baby oysters. So they have like bonnets on their head. Like they make them look super cute. And then you go and
No.
you see and they follow them and then before you know it the shells are empty and there's no more little cute oysters in their bonnets. And you're like, "Oh, that's really sad. Way to make it even worse there."
Yeah, that sounds awful. I don't
Mhm.
want it. I don't want to deal with it. It's so sad.
No.
Then basically Humpty Dumpty decides to just kind of like dismiss her. And as she's walking away, she hears a heavy crash in the forest. So,
Gee,
like, do
I
you
wonder
think,
what happened.
I know, do you think Humpty Dumpty just is committed to this fall? Like, he knows he's not going to fall, he's balancing, but do you think at some point he's just like, all right, time to fall?
I don't know. I mean, because if they can't put him together again, that's just stupid. It's like he's dying, you know? Like, why would you do
Yeah.
that? I
Well,
don't
I don't know
know.
if he knows that part of the poem. We know that part, but I don't know if he does. He only knows that, all these people are going to come and help and all this fanfare.
Probably. I think maybe he just gets a little overconfident and ends up losing his balance and topples off. That's what I think.
Yeah, I don't even know why he's up there.
I don't either. Again, I have never understood this poem because I have always thought, why is an egg sitting on a wall that he could so
I know.
easily fall off of? But I guess children's nursery rhymes aren't really supposed to make much sense anyway, so you just kind of have to let it go at some point.
Yeah. It's like the ring around the rosy. Who thought that was a good idea?
Oh gosh, I don't even want to know. Or um like lullabies. Have you ever thought about this? Like, rockabye baby on the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will stop. When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall. The baby is falling out of the tree onto the ground. Whose idea was that? Why is that okay?
It just, I don't know. For some reason, whenever I think of these nursery rhymes, they feel very sick and twisted to me. Like, who came up with this? Are they okay? And should we call CPS? Because I feel vaguely
Seriously.
threatened.
Yeah, something is definitely wrong.
Yeah. Lullabies to me sound like they are always like being sung by creepy kids in horror movies, and it feels like that's how they were supposed to be, you know, listened to, and then actual little kids pick them up.
Yeah, it does kind of feel that way, doesn't it? It's weird.
Mhm.
I don't know.
I know. I always feel like the Shining twin should just jump out at me.
Ugh, I can't. Nightmares. Of course, the girl from The Ring is a lot worse for me, but you know.
Oh, yeah. Terrifying.
Mm,
Or that, like,
hmm.
I haven't watched a whole lot of older horror movies, but like whenever I'm like, oh, I need to think of a horror movie, my brain goes, I see dead people from The
Yeah,
Sixth Sense.
yeah. I've never even seen that whole movie.
I
Mm-mm.
haven't either. So, chapter 7, The Lion and the Unicorn. So, everyone is stumbling as they're running. Like all the king's horses and all the king's men are all stumbling. No one can run in a straight line. Everyone's fallen over. Anytime the horses slightly move, the soldiers fall off. I don't know if it's because they're super well trained and this is an opposite world, or what's going on. I don't know why they're all falling off.
Well, I think I think it's probably because it's the opposite world. That'd be my guess.
Either that or it's because, at the end we find out she's comparing them to her kittens, and every time kittens walk, they fall over.
That's very true.
So,
That could be it.
yeah, so I'm not sure which is the right answer, but it's one of them.
Yeah.
So Alice is hanging out with the White King when a messenger comes up, and they, for some reason, clarify that this is an Anglo-Saxon man, and I don't know why that matters so much.
I don't either. Well, okay, so I think that part of it was because he made a point, right? He said he's Anglo-Saxon, but then he made a point of saying a couple of times like that he was like talking in an Anglo-Saxon way or gesturing in an Anglo-Saxon way, and I was like, am I supposed to know what that means? Like maybe during this time period in the 1800s when he wrote it, it meant something more specific to them. I
Yeah.
don't know, but it meant nothing to me. So I didn't understand that either.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure the Brits are Anglo-Saxons, right? Like,
I don't know.
I
I
thought
was
they are.
I was just like, that is very specific. I don't know why.
Yeah.
So
Or when they said that Humpty Dumpty was sitting on the, like, ledge like a Turk, I was like, am I supposed to know what that means? Like, I know that you're comparing him to someone who's Turkish, but I don't understand if I should be offended or not. I feel like I should be, but I don't know why.
yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah. It doesn't sit quite right with me, but I was like, I don't really know what that means, to be honest.
Mm-mm.
So the messenger says that the lion and the unicorn are fighting for the White King's crown. So the king, the Alice, and the messenger all run over to the fight now. So when they come to the fight, it seems like it's basically done for the day. And they're all starting to like eat, sit down, have a meal. And then the White Queen starts flying from the woods. And the unicorn's talking to the king and then sees Alice and looks at her with like super disgust for no reason. And the unicorn says that they didn't believe in children, but now, you know, Alice and the
Mhm.
unicorn have to believe in each other because they're seeing each other.
Right? Because she
Yeah.
was like, I've never believed in a unicorn before. I didn't know they were real, but there you are.
I'm just saying, all the things that Alice seems to believe in, she draws the line at unicorns.
Yeah, right? Like, I don't. You would think that with everything that happened in the first book, um, that, she'd be more willing to accept unicorns after everything else that happened. I mean,
Yeah, plus like she literally just chatted with uh flowers that had consciousness and you know, she's like, "But unicorns, that's where I draw the line."
I don't know. I guess it's one of those things because unicorns always seem so magical and so special and like so much so that you're like, there's no way that that could be real. I could believe that an animal could talk to me or a flower could talk or move about or whatever. But unicorns, I don't know. They're just like in this whole realm of their own. They're different for some reason. They're different. I don't know.
Have you ever heard the theory that when people first quote discovered unicorns, they were actually trying to describe a rhino?
Yes, I have heard that. And I like that. That's very interesting.
Every time I think about unicorns, I just think about rhinos now. Like I always just put them and I lump them together because that theory is so prevalent in my mind.
Well, and it makes sense. I mean, rhinos have one horn on the front of their snout, what if
Hmm.
that's what you want to call it. I mean, it works. It works.
I just I love the idea that people are like, no way, man. There's no way you ever saw that. And the guy's like, well, it was like kind of like a horse, but a little fatter. And then they're drawing it and they just draw a horse. And he goes, yeah, kind of. It was gray. And they're like, horses don't come in gray, Bernard. And he's like, no, I swear to you, this is a gray horse. And it had a horn right, on the front, on its like muzzle. And they're like, Bernard, listen, just tell us what kind of drugs you brought over to the Americas. And we're not going to say it, not Americas, it'd probably be Africa, but, the Africa. And, we won't say anything as long as you get us something. He's like, no, man, I swear to you, day and night, I saw a horse with a horn. And they're going to be like, Bernard, you crazy, crazy man.
Little do they know, he's actually correct. Kind of.
Kind of. I mean, what else would you describe a rhino as if you had nothing else to compare it to? But I feel like
Yeah,
to me, giraffes seem more mystical. Like, why are their necks so long?
right? Agreed. I mean, because a rhino is kind of like shaped like a hippo almost too, they're just
Hmm.
wide and big and got those chunky legs. I don't know. They both like raw water. Hippos more than
Have you ever?
rhinos, but anyway.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a giraffe fight each other?
Um, in a cartoon,
Oh,
but not like actual real footage.
oh
But
my gosh.
yeah,
It's insane. It's insane. They basically like limp neck it and smack each other with their faces. It's insane because
because
they're
it's so
so
weird.
long. It's so weird. Anyways,
Unicorns and a lion.
unicorns and a lion. This is just the weirdest matchup to me, but I guess this book had a lot of fighting in it.
Yeah, it did. It really
Yeah.
did. I do. This is actually one of my favorite parts, though. I've always really enjoyed this chapter. I don't know why. I think
Mhm.
it's just maybe it is because of the unicorn and he's just this mythical, fun creature. And you have a lion and they fight, but yet, they don't kill each other. They're like, let's take a break and have some cake. This will be great, like,
Yeah.
and everyone's like, yeah, it's just like a fun, friendly kind of fight. I don't know. I've always really enjoyed this chapter.
I know. I like that Alice always walks in at the best time too. It's like the
Mhm.
fighting's either about to start but doesn't, or is like just ending.
Yeah,
S- So like she doesn't have to, really participate. And I
that's
think
right.
that's fun.
She gets to avoid the meat of it.
Yeah. Because I feel like that's a little scarring for a 7.5-year-old.
Yeah.
So, okay. Then they take their break and they're all sitting down casually. And Alice tries to cut the cake, but every time she cuts it, it joins back together. And then the unicorn's like, "Oh, what you actually got to do is you have to pass out the cake before you cut it." And she's like, "What are you talking about? You are insane." But that's how it works. Somehow the lion got a double portion and Alice got none, but she did pass it out.
Yeah.
And
I mean, looking glass world, every single little thing is backwards, including how to cut and pass out cake. Pass it out first, and it magically cuts itself, and then you cut it after. But then you're like, poor Alice. There's nothing on the plate for me to cut now.
Alice is having a day, but it's also weird
Hmm.
thinking about the fact that this is her mind creating this entire storyline.
That's true. But the plus is that she's hoping that at the end of it, she gets to be a queen. So she's got a
Yeah.
really good goal. If all these weird things were happening to me, but somebody was like, you get to be the queen at the end, I'd be like, all right, sure, let's go.
It sounds good.
Yeah, right?
It's
Why not?
just kind of reading this, I'm just wondering what Alice is going through. Like, she's a very, very active imagination. I'm just kind of like, you good over there? Or,
Something going on at home. Do you need, maybe she just spends a lot of time by herself,
yeah.
like her
Seems
sister
like she kind
probably.
of annoys her sister.
Yeah. So maybe she doesn't really get to play with her sister very much. And it kind of seems like we never hear about her mom and dad. So maybe it was one of those situations where it's like children are better left to their own devices. I don't know. Come to me at tea time, darling.
Yeah, because it is the 1800s. So most people that were rich, and it seems like she's rich, they didn't raise their own kids. They had like nannies and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Which is
mm,
crazy. Anyway, that's a discussion for a different day.
I know. I know. I can't even imagine the therapy bills if
Ugh,
1800s kids could go
no,
to therapy.
no.
I feel like we've already said enough. People know where we stand.
Yep,
Um,
pretty much.
so now there's like this horribly loud drumming. Sorry, and the only way Alice knows how to deal with it is to run and hide with her hands over her ears to block it out.
Well, she is
And
7 years old, so
yeah, I guess she's not. She doesn't have to be like a. It's just funny to me. She's curious about everything except this loud, persistent drumming. That's the one thing that she's like, no,
right,
I draw
right.
the line.
Well, I can't say as I blame her. I mean, really loud, annoying drumming, I'd probably cover my ears and run for the hills too.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not the biggest fan of loud sounds, so I get it. So then we're on to chapter 8. It's my own invention.
Ah, yes.
I definitely thought this, based on the chapter title, was going to be something else. I thought this was going to be like her waking up. The world's her own invention. That's where I thought we were at.
Right? Me too, because that's just the first thing that popped into my head as well. Was like, oh, okay, dream. She's waking up or something. She realizes that it's all just in her head. But nope, not what happens.
So the drums disappear, everything's quiet again, and it seems like she might have teleported again, to which I was correct. The red knight comes up and's like, "Hey Alice, you're my prisoner," and she's like, "What?" And then a white knight shows up, and he's like, "No, she's not actually."
Shining Knight. Wait. I can't. How does that how does that go? He's her knight in shining armor come to rescue her.
I
Literally.
wasn't sure what that makes sense, but my brain, because I got so used to poetry, just in like woven throughout the story, I was ready for you to start reciting poetry. I was like, okay, where's this gonna go?
No, I was just trying to formulate my thoughts right there.
It's a big mood.
Mm-hmm.
So the two knights decide that they're gonna fight for her, and Alice literally says, "Yeah, basically what happened is they each fell off the horse. Somehow the white knight won, and then the white knight's like, 'Oh, you're gonna be queen after the next brook.'" And she's like, "Cool, sounds great." So somehow this knight lost everything because he decided to store a box upside down so that rain wouldn't get into it, but he left the box open so everything fell out. And I'm like, well, if this is opposite world, why does this have consequences?
Well, I mean, even still, you put anything upside down like that, stuff's going to fall out. He needed to have a lock on it, like a clasp, something to close it shut.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
would think that would be the best way to store things, right? Because you pass the cake out before you cut it. You store
Right.
a box that you want to stay closed by opening it. But this is the one time that things just did not work out for this poor knight.
Yeah. It just apparently gravity just except for in the house where you're floating.
Mhm.
Apparently gravity still is normal. So that didn't work even though it's looking glass land and everything else is
Yeah,
backwards.
yeah, I don't know why,
I
but
don't
that
know.
was a thing. So the knight has like a bunch of super weird, seemingly useless inventions. Like they're just kind of all over the place, to be honest.
Yep. The
Um,
He's got a beehive. A beehive thing.
yeah. Why? He's like, I
I
want good
don't know.
bees. And he's like, but no one's come to the beehive yet. And I'm like, okay.
And then he's got a mouse trap too.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I'm like, why the mousetrap? For what reason?
Well, and it's funny because Alice Alice says she was wondering what the mousetrap was for. She says it isn't very likely there would be any mice on the horse's back. And he's like, "No, but if they do come, I don't choose to have them running about." So it's kind of like he has these things as a precaution, like just in
Mhm.
case, kind of a preventive method. Just in case I'm going to do this.
Yeah, yeah, he's got a lot. Like, he's a weird survivalist. Like, he's got everything he could ever need, but like, he doesn't need them.
Again, looking glass world. He has it, but he doesn't need it. I don't know. It's better than not having what you need when you need it.
I guess. But he also had such a tall hat, so that when he fell off this horse, you know, the hat would hit first, and then he basically stay on the horse. But the problem is that he built it somehow so big that he fell through it. Like I don't know if his head is just so large that it also like he's got like a cat like body where anywhere his head fits in, his whole body fits in. But most of us humans have shoulders, and this man just doesn't have any, I guess.
Yeah, it was kind of hard picturing that. It was really hard envisioning that. What I have in my head is the image from that 1986 movie, which I do have to say, in that movie, this is actually one of my favorite scenes because the White Knight is like super sweet and kind, and he's just this like older man who is like just there to rescue Alice and to help her, and he's the sweetest thing, and Alice just loves him, and it's adorable. So it's a nice scene. I like it.
And then he keeps falling off the horse like the other people, like the other knights and horses keep falling. He keeps falling off this horse every other step, basically.
Yeah.
Like at this point, just get off the horse, walk the horse with you, and you guys will probably make progress a lot faster.
Definitely. He's not going anywhere. Atlas is like, "Do you have practice doing this?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, I have plenty of practice." And yeah, she's like, "Okay." Like, she's just like, "I don't think that's true, but whatever. We're going to go with it because that's what he says."
Basically, she's like, yeah, okay,
Okay.
sure. So then the knight decides to sing her a song, and then he leaves. And he's like, "Oh, can you wait and watch me go?" She's like, "I guess. That's fine." So he leaves, and then she crosses the brook, and suddenly she has a crown on her head.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! So then, chapter 9, Queen Alice. So suddenly, the other queens are on either side of her, and she goes to ask the Red Queen a question, but tells her to speak only when spoken to. And Alice is like, No.
Because if everybody obeyed that rule, then, and you only ever spoke when you were spoken to, and the other person waited for you to begin, nobody would ever say anything. She's got a
I mean, she's
point.
got a point. Truly
Yeah,
got a point.
she does. I agree with her.
Apparently, they tell Alice that she has to pass proper examination to be a queen, but that never comes up again.
No.
Which is like, cool. So, and then they said that they're inviting each other to Alice's dinner party. And she goes, "I didn't know that I was having a dinner party." And she's like, "Well, you should have invited us." And she's like, "What?"
I didn't even know I was giving a dinner party. Okay, great.
She's like, "Wow, I have so many people I should have invited along the way."
Well, and then they're like, "Don't you have any manners? Like, aren't manners taught in your lessons?" And Alice is like, "Manners aren't taught in my lessons. Lessons are like for math and history and stuff, not manners."
Yeah. And then they like start quizzing her on her math skills, but then when they subtract things, they're using like riddles. And they're like, "You take a bone from a dog, what's left?" And then she's like, "I don't know." And they're like, "The dog's temper. Like, you're not learning anything."
Poor Alice.
Yeah. So now the White Queen is falling asleep on her shoulder, and after the Red Queen sings her lullaby, she starts to get sleepy and falls asleep on Alice's other shoulder. And they both start snoring, and she's like, "I hate this. I don't want to be here."
Sitting here with these two ladies asleep. I can't
Mhm.
move. What do I do?
Yeah. And then she immediately they vanish, and she's standing in front of a door. Now, this door has two bells, one for servants, one for visitors, and when she knocks, the creature says no admitting until the week after next.
It's funny because as
So,
I was reading this, I half expected the frog footman from the first book to answer the door. Or the fish, whichever one it was, who answered the door at the Duchess's house. I half
oh, that would have
expected
been so
that to
good.
be. Yeah. I was like, "Oh, it's the same." No, it's not.
And now it's just some old frog.
Yeah.
So people start singing about Alice, and so she walks the room, and there's a large hall with about 50 guests in it. And they're all sitting at this really long table, and she's like, "Oh geez, okay, I gotta run to my spot." So she sits down in between the two queens, and they're like, "We've been waiting for you."
She's like, "What are you talking about? You were just outside. I was just outside. And then he wouldn't let me in. You disappeared." It's like, you know what this makes me think of? In The Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy says, "People come and go so quickly here," because
Yeah.
they just vanish and come out of nowhere.
Yeah, honestly though. So then the Red Queen keeps introducing Alice to her food so she can't eat it. And I'm like, why?
I don't know.
Yeah. And then Alice orders them to bring the pudding back so that they do. And she cuts a slice of it, and the pudding gets super offended. She's like, the pudding's like, "Did I not just meet you? Like, what are you doing?"
Don't eat me. We're friends now. I mean, and I suppose if you're talking to your pudding, you can't really eat it. I mean, if it comes to life and starts talking to you, I wouldn't be eating mine either.
No, I would not. And then all the guests start to like get consumed by the food, I guess. And then Alice starts shaking the Red Queen, who turned super small again. And then 10, shaking. As she's shaking her, she turns fatter and softer and rounder. Chapter 11, waking. And she was the kitten the whole time.
It's the kitten because Alice was taking a nap in the chair with the kitten.
So, chapter 12, Which Dreamed It? Yeah, the kitten
Mm.
actually woke her up
Hmm.
this after all this. And then she brings the red chess piece over to the kitten and tries to get the kitten to confess that the kitten had turned into the chess piece. And the kitten is like not interested at all in anything Alice has to say.
Mm-mm.
And then Dinah's still cleaning the white kitten this whole time. And then sh Alice thinks that the white kitten was looks so disorderly um, in her dream because the white kitten was the white queen because she was being licked the entire time by Dinah.
Which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, in all reality, like you think about it, even for us, when when we dream stuff, your subconscious takes things that happen to you during the day and just kind of like distorts them and puts them into different realities. So, I mean, that really actually does really make perfect sense that that would be
Yeah.
why it was like that.
Yeah, I get it. It's just so it's so weird.
I know. I've just at this point, learned to just accept it and understand that Lewis Carroll wrote some strange stuff. So I'm just going to sit back and appreciate it as a good, just fun, nonsense kind of piece of literature and enjoy
Yep.
it.
Yeah, I was like, all right, sounds good.
Yes.
I will say I definitely like this one more. It
Hmm.
felt more like a real dream. The other one felt like a fever dream. Like I was sick and dying in a hospital dreaming that way.
Seriously. But it is I really like both of them though. I think they're both great and I cannot wait to watch the movies and then chat about the movies with you.
Oh, I know. I'm so excited. So
It's
I
going to be
got some
fun.
quick, fun, short facts that luckily were included in the back of my edition, which is the Puffin
Nice.
Classics edition. So, first fun fact, his actual name was not Lewis Carroll. It was Charles Ludwig Dodgson.
Which is a mouthful. Lewis Carroll,
Yeah.
so much easier to say.
Oh yeah. Like absolutely. I definitely would have changed that on over. He was also never married. He was one of 11 children.
That's a lot.
And yeah, that's a lot.
Hmm.
And then obviously he grew up in England. Um and the reason he changed his name to Lewis Carroll is he actually wrote mathematical books under his real name. And
Hmm.
so for the children's books he wanted a different name, so that's why he adopted the um name Lewis Carroll.
Oh, that's interesting. I never knew that.
Oh my gosh. Okay, wait. It tells me why how he got Lewis Carroll. So this is a direct quote from the Puffin Classics edition. He got his name by translating the first two names, Charles Ludwig, into Latin as Corolus Ludovicus, and then he anglicized them and
Oh my
reversed their
gosh.
order.
That is insane. That's a lot of effort to come up with a pen name. I
Yeah,
mean, I just would be like, what name do I like? Oh, I like this name. I'm going to be this. I mean, the research that like that's a lot. But hey, whatever, to each his own. It works. I mean, it works. So,
yeah, yeah. My pen name came from like a random name generator, and then people thought it was actually a nickname of my name, and because my pen name was Ray, Rae. And so a
ah,
lot of people call me Ray, and they were like, "Oh, it's just like a nickname version of your name." And I had never thought of it that way. And I was like,
ah.
"Oh, I guess it is weird." So then it turns out, because I know you had kind of mentioned this, but the Alice was not actually a neighbor. It was he wrote it for one of the children of Henry Little, the dean of Christ College Church, and one of his kids, whose name was Alice.
Hmm.
And for some, okay, this is a really weird thing is they said that they Charles and his friend Reverend Robinson Duckworth took Alice and her two sisters on a boating trip. And then to keep them amused, he told them the tale of Alice and the White Rabbit. But it's weird that the father of these kids or the mother was not involved in this boating trip.
Yes, that is very weird. Um,
That don't
However,
sit right with me.
no, but here's the I love Lewis Carroll and these books. So I am just gonna imagine that perhaps the parents were there and it's just not mentioned in that. And I'm gonna let it go at that. I cannot have
Yeah.
this man tainted in my head. No.
Also, it was another time. Maybe it wasn't weird then.
Yep.
Um, yeah. Oh my gosh.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Several words, yeah, from Lewis Carroll's nonsensical poems have become part of the English language, such as chortle, which combines snort and chuckle from the poem uh, Jabberwocky, and galumph, which combines gallop and triumph.
So I have heard of both of those words before. I mean, like as what they're used for, turtle and galumph. However, I did not realize that those were words that those were his own words that he made up. It's like actually Shakespeare made up words too. Did you know that?
Hmm.
William Shakespeare
Yeah,
made up words as well. So,
it's kind of like how they talk about how quickly things move with social media. Like we make up words all the time. Like cap,
mhm,
that's not a word. We made that up. And
right.
it's just everyone says it. It's caught on now. But it's like it's weird the fact that it just takes one person to say it and then it catches on and everyone says it.
Exactly. Or it gets put into a crazy poem.
Oh my gosh, there's a recipe for plum cake in the back of this book.
That is so fun.
Yeah, that is
Oh, I
very
love
cool.
that. Oh, that's awesome.
Also, you can tell that this is for little kids because it has a how to make your own Humpty Dumpty.
Oh, that's super cute.
Yeah,
See, mine
and it's
doesn't
all
have
about
that.
egg decorating. And then it's got
Oh,
chess information and like fun facts about chess. Cute little
nice. Very
glosser.
appropriate.
Oh, it explains what a cravat is, which is kind of nice.
Because we do need that explanation.
Yeah. And then it's got a
Oh.
preview of the journey to the Great Oz, aka Wizard of Oz, in the back.
Mm, love that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, lots of fun stuff. But so you see now, after reading both of these books, how Disney meshed the two of them together. Like they just took a cheap way
Yeah.
around and meshed two of them together and created their own version instead of sticking true completely to Lewis Carroll's story.
Yeah.
Because the unbirthday, as we discovered, is in this book, but
Hmm.
Disney puts it in when Alice is with the Mad Hatter and the March Hare because I sing that whole song about your unbirthday.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait to revisit that because
Mm,
me and a friend are going to be revisiting that for Patreon. So I am very excited to revisit that now, actually having the source material in my head.
mhm.
So that should be
Yeah,
very, very fun.
it's going to be great. And then watching because the ones that I told you about, the like 1986 ones or whatever, are a lot more true to both of the books. Now, there is a difference in Through the Looking Glass because the Jabberwocky has more of a presence. But um they did it. I don't know why they did it. I've never read it, but I feel like the way that it's done is like with everything in the 80s at the end to teach a specific lesson. So it's good. You'll see. I don't want to spoil it for you, but
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait. It's
mhm.
going to be a lot of fun. So, yeah, that's going to be
Yeah,
our next episode.
woohoo! I'm excited. It's going to be lots
I'm
of
really
fun.
excited.
And then I'm telling you,
Yeah.
then
So,
when you read Heartless, you're going to look at that differently too. And you're going to be reading Heartless and being like, oh my gosh, Marissa Meyer really pulled like every single element that she could from Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass and put it into this book. And it's great. And then you're never going to look at the Queen of Hearts in the same way ever again. So,
Yeah, I'm very excited to read that. That's going to be a
yeah,
lot of fun, which will also be on Patreon. So now's the best time to subscribe on Patreon. Go and
that's
check
right.
out those tiers, get all the exclusive content that there's already up, and continue to get some great, great exclusive content.
Yes. There you go.
So that's all we have for this episode. Next, we'll be watching the 1985 Alice in Wonderland. So if you have not seen that and you want to avoid spoilers, please be sure to watch that before next week. And we will catch you all in that episode. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all so very much for listening to this episode of the Barely Bookish podcast. As I mentioned in the beginning, the next episode on Patreon will be going live on Friday, August 6th. So if you want to listen to me and Nova talk about all the Alice in Wonderland movies, that's where that'll be. We're also going to be discussing Heartless with Leah from YA Book Chat over on Patreon, and that'll be coming out the first Friday of September. So if you want to listen to that, join Patreon. It's $10 a month. It helps support this podcast, and I would really appreciate it. Also, if you want to just figure out other ways to help support the podcast, besides Patreon, you can share it with a friend and write a review and all that fun stuff. It helps a lot more than you probably know, and I would really, really appreciate it. But yeah, that's kind of all I've got for you guys in this episode. Any fun news will be over on Instagram and Twitter whenever I have news. So if you want to get social, follow me on all the things at barelybookish on all the social handles, or you can go to barelybookish.com/connect, and it'll give you a link to every single thing. But that's kind of all I've got for you guys on this one. Thank you all so very much for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one. Our logo was designed by my little sibling Sarah, and our theme song was by Raphael Crux on freepd.com. So thank you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye!